Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. All praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who created us, who sustains for us, and the one who will judge us. Peace and blessing to his beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Brothers and sisters, I want to thank you for attending today's event, the corrupting the Islamic identity. Now, you may ask yourself, why are they trying to corrupt the Islamic identity? You have to think about the fact that the bulk of Muslims in America are actually from abroad. They continue to maintain relationship with their friends and family abroad. Now, if we look at U.S. foreign policy, the most challenging place for U.S. foreign policy is where? The Muslim world. So if we look at Muslims in America that have actually gone overseas to run the affairs of people in the Muslim world, even locally in the DC area, we can identify two individuals. For example, in Somalia, we had Sheikh Hassan, who's the president of Somalia, and who has his roots traced back to the state of Virginia, and now he runs the affairs for Somalia. And this also happens to be one of the favorite sites for the Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA, to leverage torture techniques utilizing the Somali National Security Service to extract information. And they continue to use the Somali warlords to extract information through torture. Even in Libya, current Libya right now, you have Khalifa Haftar, who is currently meddling in the affairs of Libya on the behalf of the U.S. to remove British interest, another Virginia resident. So we look at the fact that whether you have secular thoughts or you have even Islamic thoughts, that the intelligence community, law enforcement, policymakers have tapped these individuals in America, Muslims in America, to go abroad to do their dirty work, and including domestically. Muslims in America have started to notice a trend in the modern, what we see the modern / liberal ideas coming in, injecting into our affairs, whether it be in the masjids, whether it be in the Islamic circles, the conferences, and so on. These modern and these liberalists, what they're trying to do is detach the Muslims from the Ummah. They're trying to propagate thoughts that literally make the haram halal. They try to create Islamic opinion when there's no opinion allowed for certain ideas. This is the thought, this is what they're trying to generate within this group of circle. They're creating an atmosphere where you cannot challenge them. They're defining the status quo. They will tell you, oh, brother or sister, you cannot challenge me, or you cannot challenge him, the fact that he has a degree from a university, Islamic university, that has to be run by a dictator overseas. So when we see their hypocrisy, we see that their loyalty is preferred to the kuffar over the Muslim. They'll degrade the Muslim, they'll humiliate the Muslim, always giving the kuffar the upper hand. And they operate groups that have the word Islamic and Muslim in them. Now, being in DC, we are used to hearing of all the various think tanks that operate all throughout the city. These think tanks are coming up with economic policies, foreign policies, trade policies, and so on. One of the most famous think tanks in the area is the Rand Corporation. The Rand Corporation is one of the biggest think tanks with an endowment over $350 million that started its roots from getting funding from the defense industrial base. And today it continues to operate with the money of the US government, defense companies, and so on. Now, in 2007, the Rand Corporation produced a report called Building the Moderate Muslim Network. Now, this document was designed as a way for America to come up with policies to cut down or have the thought process of political Islam throughout the Muslim world. That was the sole purpose of this document, is to eliminate political Islam by leveraging Muslims to do it. Now, people assume, oh, this document was probably designed for the radicalists or the people carrying material idea. Absolutely not. This document is calling for any Muslim, even when you're carrying non-political, non-violent means to establish political Islam are targeted within this. Now, what terrifies these think tanks is if the dictators that are the Western-backed dictators are replaced by what the Muslims want, Sharia. This replacement will actually disallow American interest abroad or Western interest. At the same time, it hurts the pocketbook of your top 1%. Rand Corporation has identified partners that could be leveraged to propagate this modern network. They've chosen, within their partner, they identified 3: seculars, liberals, and modernists. Now, the first 2 have no legitimacy in the Muslim world. Seculars, I mean, it's a contradiction. You can't be a secular Muslim. And we look at, in Pew study reports have been, for the past couple of years that go in the Muslim world asking, do you want Sharia? And every year the same answer is, we want Sharia. We want Sharia. It gets bigger and bigger, and it goes to the people they fear the most, the youth. At the same time, the reason why they pick liberal Muslims is the fact that they do not want, and they quote, an Islamic State. Now, we're not talking about the so-called Islamic State between Raqqa and Mosul. What they're referring to, again, this document was published in 2007. They're referring to the concept of Islamic State, the true Khilafah, on the method of the Prophet. Seculars have no credibility within the Ummah. So it's very difficult for them to inject their disgusting thoughts or evil ideas into the Muslim. And we know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said in the Quran, Surah Ma'idah, whoever does not judge what Allah has revealed, they're kafir, they're fasiq, they're dhalim. So these categories, these are qat'i, they're very blunt. You cannot interpret this any other way. And we know against what the wills of the Muslim throughout the Ummah, even when they send out people to research, that the Muslims want Sharia. They want to live under the rules of Islam. Now, these liberals and modernists, they're going far as asking for reinterpreting the Quran, invalidating the Sunnah. These are acts that are kufr. They make you kafir. The moment you say, I reject Sunnah, what is it? You fall into the category of being a kafir. This is what they're asking, because if you can get a Muslim to agree to this, he's not a Muslim. He's making the halal haram. But again, these first 2 really have no clout. They have no credibility within the Muslims. The most dangerous is the third one, the modernist, because this is the wolf in sheep's clothing. These are the people that wear the thobe, the light beard. They get their fancy Islamic degrees from universities, again, run by dictators, or even here domestically, that don't even have a Muslim professor teaching them. So within this modernist group, they even pinpoint who they should select. So they go, we should look for liberal and secular Muslims, especially in the academia world. The reason is, we know in the Muslim community, if you have a PhD, you're a doctor, no matter what it is, if it's weave basket making, or it could be foreign policy, you have the golden ticket to give Jummah khutbah wherever you want. There's nothing more they love is to have a PhD come and speak in front of the Muslims. The other target was young Muslim cleric. They go, this is one of their strongest points, is that if America can leverage young Muslim cleric, they will become the religious leaders of the future. And if you look behind the new class of your rock star imams, you'll see that these guys look like they should be in boy bands rather than preaching. These guys have the golden ticket to go speak at ISNA, ICNA, MSAs, universities, wherever it may be. Now, when Quds is occupied, when Muslims are getting drowned, they're getting spied on, and the list goes on, their talks are the fiqh of love, soul searching. They choose non-controversial topics to allow them to speak anywhere. And then every once a year, they'll do it out. Oh, what the Americans are doing with drone attacks are bad. The continuous support of Israel is not good for the world or whatever. That's once in a year. That's to give them that little credibility. Beside that, 364 days of the year, this is what they continue to promote. The fiqh of Allah, the fiqh of this. There's nothing wrong with it, but when the ummah is suffering, there should be the fiqh of how do I fix this problem? How do I make sure Muslims remove themselves out of the misery that they're in? Brothers and sisters, I want to remind you that Rasulullah ﷺ said in a famous hadith, there will come a time when your belief is like holding a hot coal. If you don't feel the coal, you don't feel like both hands are in the fire, there's something wrong. Re-examine yourself. Now, one of the things they highlighted as well was the role of American Muslims. This is a key fact. They said, we need American Muslims involved to implement this plan. And they quote, American Muslims have a potentially important role to play in building the moderate Muslim networking institution. We advocate using moderate U.S. Muslim groups and organization to get this plan in check, rolling. If you travel abroad, especially in the other parts of the West, you hear a new slogan, I don't want American Islam. This is a new theme. You talk to brothers in England, you talk to brothers in Holland, you talk to brothers in France. They know this, like, we don't want this American Islam. It's even branded now. And they look at it like, what is wrong with this American Islam? Because what they see, they get puzzled when they see these rock star imams come down, literally, and this is not a joke, they're coming down red carpets to take pictures. The narcissistic selfies they continue to take. The continuous, how much people like me on Facebook and how many time I'm getting retweeted. This is the aura that's surrounding these guys. They've created an anti-intellectual climate where they created an atmosphere that you cannot debate. You cannot question them. If you do, you're a radical. You're an extremist. You're not part of the status quo. Do we not remember the Sahabas when they would even hold their other Sahabas accountable? Do we not remember when the Sahabas themselves would hold the Khulafa Rashidin accountable? Yet, we cannot question the Imam. We cannot question the Masjid Board Committee. This is reality today. This is the atmosphere they're designing. Pure slave mentality. And let's face it, these degrees they have are useless. Their knowledge is useless. If they cannot answer you when the Muslims are suffering, when the most fundamental issues of Islam that have been talked about by the ulama and unanimously agreed on certain actions, they reject. They don't bother mentioning it. So if you spent years in Azhar, you spent years in Riyadh, or Medina, wherever it may be, Malaysia, earning your degree in Sharia or Islamic studies, and you cannot answer the most basic questions that come out because you fear the answer, you're useless. These degrees are useless. Your thobe, your turban, it's useless. At the end of the day, it becomes a costume party. This is the Islam that America wants, and it's the Islam we reject. Now, let me reflect a personal story. I had a cousin of mine who died in 9/11. Yes, surprising, a Muslim. Muslims were part of the victims during the World Trade Center bombing. And it was her and her husband, as a matter of fact. They were the only married couple to be killed during that day. May Allah have mercy on them. Now, after they passed, the family threw an event, the remembrance event, and you had imams, you had all sorts of prominent leaders show up. And one of the person who showed up was John Esposito. John Esposito is a professor in Georgetown. He's an Orientalist. His niche is, this guy supposedly knows Islam better than most Muslims. And when he was there, he was speaking on the topic of fi sabilillah, which means in the path of Allah. And he was telling the Muslims, what you understand fi sabilillah to be is not correct. It means literally anything you do good. You want to give zakat, you want to do this, you want to do that. So I looked, I'm like, what? So the moment he's done, I run up to him. I'm like, John, So you are smarter than Imam Shafi, Imam Ahmad, Imam Hanbal, Imam Malik, Abu Hanifa, and you don't even know the Arabic language. I said this sarcastically. And what was scary that day was we had Muslims, hundreds of them, nodding their head, like, yeah, whatever you're telling is true. From a man who rejects Allah, from a man who rejects Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the man who rejects Quran. He's not even a believer, and he's giving fiqh matters. He's explaining to them Shari definition. The issue wasn't his definition. The issue is where you have a non-Muslim teaching you one of the most sacred aspects of Islam. That's equivalent of me teaching Jewish jurisprudence to a Jewish family. I have no qualification for this. I can't speak on this matter. Yet, here's a guy who are Muslims are looking up to, yes, define Islam for me. So, the most dangerous, one of the, this is the danger, is that this is what we're noticing in the community more, is that we're having, you see it few, but you have your Orientalist, non-Muslim telling Muslims how they should be, how should they live in accordance with the Quran and Sunnah. But, this won't work. What they need is the actual Muslim or the corrupt Muslim to deliver the corrupt system or the corrupt version of Islam. So in order to inject the virus, you need a Muslim to deliver it. We need a vehicle to do it. So you need that young, as they go, the young imam. You need that liberal secular. You may not know it, behind the disguise. The guy may have the he may have the turban, he may have the nice thobe, $300 thobe, come speak to you at Jummah. But beside that, you have no idea what his ideas are. It's just that 20 minutes. And when those 20 minutes, you can sit there and dissect, hey, there's something really strange with this. So if we look at the samples of some of the rock star imams that we are seeing now, one of the reasons why you can't question them is because, again, they've obtained their PhD, or not even PhD, they obtained their most basic Islamic degree from a university in the Muslim world. Now, even the most Muslims from overseas have equivalent or more superior knowledge than them. Yet, you cannot question them because they don't have a 2-cent piece of paper from the Ministry of Education of Egypt to saying you're a certified sheikh. This is what they're making. It's like it's a factory of this is who's this is a certified imam, certified sheikh that comes, and you cannot dare to question him. So they're making an atmosphere where you cannot question the Muslim. You cannot question because you don't have any ijazah. You don't have a fancy paper saying you have a bachelor's degree. Yet we look at one of our most beloved Sahaba, Abu Dar. Abu Dar is a Bedouin, comes from one of the toughest tribes in the Arabian Peninsula, Bani Khafar. He goes to Mecca to confirm he heard about this prophet. He goes, I want to see this prophet. I want to meet this prophet. Who is this prophet I keep hearing about? He goes there. And subhanAllah, he meets Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he's a simple Bedouin. Rasulullah gave him a few ayats of the Quran. He's like, take this back to Bani Khafar and give dawah. That's it, few words. SubhanAllah, with those few words, he made the bulk of the tribe Muslim. Did he have ijazah? No. Did he know the entire Quran? No. Simple, just 3 words. So he was able to promote the good and forbid the evil with few words. Few ayats from Allah. And subhanAllah, he took people that were destined to go Jahannam. And subhanAllah, and may Allah give the people of Bani Khafar Jannah. In today's world, this is a taboo. How can you, brother, you're not qualified to do this. You're not qualified to give a tafsir. You're not qualified to do this because you didn't go to this degree, you didn't get this certification, you didn't get this stamp. SubhanAllah, this system is very new now. And you have people that who were almost indoctrinated into this whole certification system in the past few years, giving this is how it works. This is not the case back home. How Islam operates, how the education works, how the sacred knowledge, if you want to call it, how it goes down from teacher to student. So one of the things as Muslims we have is physical attribution, whether it be the beard, and for the girls it's the hijab. One of the things you notice now is the continuous promotion of girls that have no hijab representing Islamic groups, masjids, MSAs, and so on. Let's make it clear. There is absolutely no opinion, different opinion when it comes to wearing the hijab. It is fard. Yet, they make an atmosphere where, imagine this, your daughter comes up or your sister goes, hey, Abdullah, or hey, Baba, I don't have to wear hijab. Aisha, who head of the MSA, doesn't wear it. This is the atmosphere they're creating. And these are sisters who actually run Islamic or represent Islamic organization. This is not by mistake. This was designed. You see, with this logic, you can have two guys sipping beer, eating a bacon burger in front of the MSA booth. What's the difference? Haram is haram. Displeasing Allah is displeasing Allah. This is the logic that they're trying to promote to the people. So, if we look at some of the examples of the stance, what they do, the so-called status quo Muslim on events, you kind of look at how these guys get exposed. Now, on September 30, 2011, President Obama ordered the extrajudicial killing of Anwar al-Awlaki. In other words, a U.S. president assassinated a U.S. citizen without due process. Then 2 weeks later, his 16-year-old son, Abdul Rahman al-Awlaki, gets killed by a double-tap drone attack. Now, I'm not here to talk about Anwar al-Awlaki's idea. I'm here to talk about Anwar al-Awlaki as a U.S. citizen. Now, we all know that one of the most basic fundamentals of the U.S. judicial system is what? You're innocent until proven guilty. Right? Everyone knows this. I mean, if you watch Cops, this is one of the last thing they say is they're all innocent until proven guilty. Every kid knows this. Everybody knows this. So, in America, these Muslim groups, and they love to boast, I'm a proud American Muslim. I love this Constitution. After the Quran, it's the Constitution. This is what the aura. This is what they almost preach. Yet, when the president kills a U.S. citizen without due process, that's sacrilegious for them. For any proud American who loves the Bills of Rights and the Constitution, that is sacrilegious. You just killed a U.S. citizen without due process. And where were these guys? They were silent. Absolutely silent. These are the people who just give you lip service. They're proud Americans. They drive their Japanese car waving their Chinese-made American flag. This is the people. Pure lip service. And even a few months ago, during the Ramadan iftars, now, during Ramadan, the people of Gaza were being bombarded by Israel. And during the Ramadan iftar at the White House, President Obama openly said, I support Israeli operations in Gaza, and I openly support the spine of Muslims, after the whole Snowden leak. Now, this was a Ramadan iftar. You had prominent American Muslim representative there, outside of all the ambassadors and so on. They sat there, and to put the salt on the wound, they even brought in the Israeli ambassador during that iftar to break bread. And the Muslims were angry. They were before this. They're like, no, these guys they're going to give nasiha, they're going to give advice, so on and so on. They didn't say a word. They sat there breaking bread with Pharaoh. What a mock! This is the groups that represent the Muslim community. And then, if they wanted to talk sincere, yes, Rasulullah broke bread with Quraysh, the heads of Quraysh. But what did he say? Islam is superior, your system is false. It's not we're equal. No. La ilaha illallah will outweigh everything. This is the truth. This is from Allah. If you have issues, believe in that. You have issues in your faith. Islam is dominant over everything. One of the things, when after hearing this, I always we think about the word of Khalid, his dua. May the eyes of cowards never sleep. So another thing that happened very recently was the Extremist Summit. The Extremist Summit was a summit that was designed to talk about how to, issue ways to de-radicalize people, but really it was pertaining to Muslims. So let's look at a little historical fact. In America, the bulk of cases in the past few months of people trying to go to Syria and Iraq to go to that one specific group, and all successfully prosecuted cases of terrorism since 9/11 have been in conjunction with the biggest co-conspirator of terrorism, the FBI. So without the FBI designing the plot, giving the material, this stuff would have never happened. Now we have Islamic groups hustling to sell their anti-radicalization program to the world, so they could be in front of the media, get an invitation to the White House to hustle this, to take this to the next level. Now, when the president had this summit, what an amazement! And this tells you the state we're in. You had 18 non-Muslim groups come up, like the Presbyterian Church, the Sikh Coalition, and so on, saying, this is bad. You guys are only targeting Muslims. Yet DHS reports are showing that the biggest fear for domestic terrorism is not even Muslims anymore. It is the radical right. This is over again. How many, if you look at terrorism actual incidents in the U.S., Muslims don't even make up the bulk of it. It is, angry Americans that are, especially angry white Americans that are doing this. Yet we're spending billions. They're, sitting there going to summits talking about how Muslims are evil. We're the bad people. And this, even the non-Muslims recognize this. Yet, we have groups like MPAC that continue to go to their attendance to do what? To promote pretty much this false political narrative. We need to ask where a lot of these guys sit in al-bara wal-bara. Al-bara wal-bara. And again, sad fact, more Muslims have killed Americans by drunk driving than terrorism ever. Now, to conclude all this, today the honors of Muslims are being defended by groups like ACLU and guys like Glenn Greenwald. And the reason why it's being defended by non-Muslim is that the bulk of all these Islamic groups are silent. You see, they made a pact with the devil. Yes, the devil. You see, right when the Obama administration came in there, they pretty much said a lot of these groups aligned themselves democratically. And if you notice, the same thing that happened during the Bush administration, this is, they were blasting away. There's a war against Islam, such as that. The moment of the Obama administration, the same instances are there. They were against the war in Iraq, but a lot of these groups support the war to go into Syria, to go into Libya. What's the difference? Your president's democratic. Now, it reminds me of Malcolm's speech, house Negro, field Negro. Today, we have a house Muslim and a field Muslim. And it's just like it goes. If master feels sick, I feel sick. My head hurts. That's how the bulk of the Muslim leadership are. They're nothing but a bunch of house Muslims. And we need to change this ASAP. We cannot continue to allow these groups and these leaders, so-called leaders, to hijack our voices. Let's look at numbers. There's, let's say, whether 3 million, 6 million Muslim, whatever, we don't have a solid number in this country. That's the number, right? The reality is the bulk of Muslims do not attend conferences. They don't go to the masjids, So when we see the biggest Islamic conference, ISNA, 50,000 people, guess what? That does not even represent 0.01% of the American Muslim population. So what does that tell you? It tells you that, A, there's a false smoke and mirror that these groups are really bigger than what they are. They're really minute. But they've been able to hijack the voice. And we cannot allow this to happen. The issue is that, people complain like, oh, brother, I see these guys, they're taking over my masjid, taking over our city, spreading these ideas. But remember, haq versus batil, who wins? Haq. This is reality. And we'll continue, and you cannot change this because this is clear from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, it is the responsibility falls under our neck. We will be held responsible for this on Yawm al-Qiyamah. Is whether you sit there being completely silent about it or do some type of actions on it. Again, I want to thank you for the time. Inshallah, brothers who come after me will enlighten you more. Anything good I said came from Allah. Anything bad is personally from me. Thank you.